welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Eve Hemingway, hello, and let's just get into this video. So today I am going to talk about what every mother loves to talk about, and that is their labour story, because I would say this is the most physically painful experience of a woman's life, and I don't know, we need to get credit for the things that we go through. And men like to compare this pain to a kick in the balls. I mean, I guess the pain might be similar to one contraction, because that lasts from about 40 seconds to a minute. Unless you're repeatedly getting kicked in the balls for 20 hours straight every single minute, then I'm sorry, you men out there, you cannot compare it to that pain. Nothing against men, but I just hate that comparison, and I'm sure every other woman hates that comparison too. So Edward was born 5 days early on the 10th of April. When you're in the term time, I think it's after 36 weeks, if you have your baby, then it's not classed as premature. So I think this is the hardest time of the pregnancy. I know that I was just searching every day how to speed up the process of labour coming on. One thing that I did do, and I believe that it did work, was that me and Eric went on a really long walk for about 4 hours or something. It's to do with your hip movement, and it like brings the head down ready to come out, basically. But what it says about if you do these things to speed up the labour coming on, then you are more likely to have like a quicker labour, I guess. That was not the case for me. I was in labour for 20 hours, and I'm about to tell you about that whole experience. So after that long walk, me and Eric got back and we had tea or whatever, and then we went to bed to watch Prison Break. And I specifically remember this was the episode where T-Bag is tied to a radiator, so where he ends up like cutting his hand off. The reason I remember that it was that episode was because T-Bag is sometimes called Teddy, and I really wanted to call Edward Teddy as his nickname, but I've never really stuck to that once Edward has been born. Teddy, T-Bag, is the guy that's like a paedophile. Sorry for spoilers, but I mean, it's Prison Break. It's pretty old if you were ever getting around to watching Prison Break. I mean, if you really want to, you probably would by now. Yeah, so we were laying in bed. It was about 12 o'clock at night, and I got up to go to the toilet, and then a big gush of water just went all over the bed. When your waters break, it is not like how the movies show it. This water just keeps coming and coming and coming. It doesn't stop. Even though my waters had broken, I still hadn't actually felt any contractions. I remember the parent classes actually said even if your waters do break, you need to go to the hospital. So we got an Uber down to the hospital, because at this point I was still a student. I didn't have a car yet. Eric didn't have a car, and he can't drive in this country anyway because he's got a US driving license. So either way, like we had to get an Uber, and then someone came to see me to test to see if the baby's heart is like beating okay, and I have a video of that actually. I will insert it now.
So does it feel like it's back to back?
Yeah, at the moment. Is that what you've been told before?
No, I've not been told that.
If being back to back, your labour can be about an hour longer.
Yeah, so I don't know if you heard that. She told me that like Edward was actually facing back to back, and that my pregnancy was going to be maybe an hour longer. I was so calm. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. Like, I know now that my labour is gonna be 4 hours instead of 3. Like, obviously I was so wrong. And they just told me to go back home and wait until my contractions do start. As soon as I got back, that's when the contractions started, and I was like, oh no, like this is really painful. So Eric, as soon as his head hit the pillow, he was flat out asleep, because obviously we were tired anyway from this huge walk that we'd just been on. Like, I was already so tired, but I tried to get to sleep, but I really couldn't. Because Eric was asleep, for some reason I stupidly thought, oh, I don't want to wake him up because I don't want to annoy him. I went to the bathroom and I had a shower. My student accommodation didn't actually have a bath. The shower was actually really good, just to put it on my back, because when you have contractions, the pain's like in your lower back and then it slowly comes up and then it comes to your chest and then that's like at the peak. So I was like, right, I don't want to stay in my student accommodation. There are so many reasons for that. Like, the student accommodation was not suitable, it was damp, it was really cold, it was a horrible house. Oh, it was disgusting, and to be honest, I hated the people that I lived with. Well, I hated one person. There'll probably be a whole video about her because she was the ultimate bully. Obviously, I'm not going to mention her name because I don't want to give her credit for what she did. So I went to wake Eric up. I was like, yeah, we need to go back down to the hospital because my contractions are getting pretty close together now. We went downstairs and I remember sitting on the stairs. I'll actually insert the picture now. So I was like just sat there like in labour having these painful contractions, and we were both just on our phones trying to get a good deal on Uber. I don't know if you know, but like with Uber, when you click on the app and then click off the app, they give you like different prices, because sometimes it can be like, oh, there's not enough cars in your area, so you have to pay like times 4 the price of what it would be. But it's stupid for the fact that both of our phones were saying like something different, so we just kept clicking on and off the app to try and like get the best price that we could for this Uber, because we are very poor students. I went back to the same place and I remember at this point, oh my god, Edward was moving around. Whenever he used to move anywhere, because now that I know that he was facing back to back, he would always kick my ribs and then he would kick my hip bone like 20 minutes later. Like, he was such a wriggler. Oh, it was so painful. I think I've got a video, I'll insert that now. Why is he moving now? Why is he moving? Oh, stop moving. We were given, it was such a nice room because I wanted a water birth. Just the pain relief that I wanted was a bath and gas and air, and obviously paracetamol, which I'd already had. That's when they checked my dilation. Oh my god, that I did not think that that would be so painful. It is so painful. They literally put their whole fist into your vagina, like, just to see how much you're dilated. Ah, it was so painful. At this point, I was like, I remember saying to Eric before, if he's only 4 centimetres dilated, I'm gonna be so annoyed. And then they told me, oh, you're only 1 centimetre dilated and you're probably gonna have to go home and rest and then come back. Like, I was like, no, like, I was already in this like really nice room. I really didn't want to leave this room, it was so nice. So I just said to her, like, is it possible for me to stay here, because like I cannot go back to my student accommodation because it is not a suitable place for me to have a baby. Even though I was only 1 centimetre dilated and I knew that it's going to be quite a few more hours, I didn't want to be trailing back to my accommodation with an Uber and then coming back again when I was in that much pain. Also because it's in my notes that I want a water birth and I'm in the room, one of many rooms in this hospital that has a pool. So they were like, okay, if you want, then stay here for a few hours and then we'll see how much more you're dilated. And yeah, I was really happy at this point. Like, I actually fell asleep for a little bit in the pool. If you're like considering what sort of birth to have, I would definitely say water birth. Like, the relief that you get from that is so good, and it is, I don't know why it is, but I don't know, it just feels so much more relaxing. Like, we were having some toast or whatever, and then they came back and they were saying, right, you need to leave this room now, you can't stay here, like, you've had a few hours, you still don't look any more in labour than you did before, even though she didn't check my dilation. But then I went to explain to her again that my accommodation is not suitable. Like, I was practically homeless at this point. I knew as soon as I went into labour I would never go back to my student accommodation again. Like, I hated it so much. And they were like, oh, okay, let me go and check. And then she came back and she was like, oh, so I've checked and we're gonna make this exception for you and you can stay, but you can't stay in this room, you're gonna have to stay on the ward. Like, it was nice for them to say like I could stay there, but it's already on my records that I am having a water birth, and there was no one else that needed that room anyway. There was so many more rooms, like but yeah, whatever, like they were letting me stay and they had made an exception for me. How kind of them. I don't know if you guys have ever been on a hospital ward before. It's just like a long corridor and it has multiple different rooms, and in these rooms there are like 4 to 6 beds and it's separated by a curtain, and you can literally hear every single other person in those rooms. I was the only one that was in labour out of everyone on that ward. At this point, like, my contractions were obviously getting worse, but for some stupid reason, like, obviously Eric needs all the energy that he can get. I was the one that was sat on the chair whilst Eric laid down and went to sleep in the hospital bed. I will insert that picture now. Yeah, whilst he was asleep, I was like on my phone timing the contractions. Yeah, they were like pretty close together and they were getting more intense that I couldn't really breathe. But yeah, I had to wake Eric up because I was like, Eric, I'm in a lot of pain. Well, let's walk down to the desk and ask to see if I can be checked for my dilation, because they said if I was more than 4 centimetres dilated, that is when I can have the pain relief. Anyway, so I went down to the desk and there was 3 people sat there, 3 midwives, and I said, can I have my dilation checked? And she was just like, no. And I was like, why? Like, why not? And she says, we only check for dilation if we absolutely have to. Like, why? Like, that is so stupid. And I was like, well, I feel as if I absolutely have to have my dilation checked because I know that I need the pain relief now, but obviously it's the NHS and you won't give me any of that pain relief, or you won't give me the pool, you won't give me the gas and air because I'm not like more than 4 centimetres dilated. And they were like, no, we're not checking you because you don't look like you're in labour. Like, I honestly could not believe that they had just said that. I was clearly in labour. Just because I was still smiling through the pain of the contractions, I was in labour. I was excited that I was going to be seeing my child soon. Sorry that I was smiling still. I was not smiling when I was at the peak of my contraction. But yeah, you have a resting point for a few minutes between each contraction, and sorry that I was smiling at the point when I asked you if I could be checked. So they wouldn't check me because they basically didn't believe that I was in labour. So I went back to my bed. I claimed the bed this time. So a few hours later, I got to the point of my contractions where literally if I moved at all, it was so hard. Like, they actually encourage you when you're in labour to walk around because it eases the pain as well. I'll take a walk to the toilet because, like, I need the toilet anyway. So Eric like helped me get out of the bed and we walked down to the toilet, and oh my god, the toilet was so far away. It was probably like 20 feet down the hall, but to me it was like walking for miles. I was literally just shuffling my feet across the floor. When I was walking, my contractions would come more frequently and oh my god, it hurt so much. And for some reason the visitor toilet was closer than the patient toilet, so I had to walk past this visitor toilet onto the patient toilet. I don't know why I didn't just go to the visitor toilet. Either way, before I even got to the toilet, like, my contractions were so painful. I literally, like, I was like, Eric, why does no one believe that I'm in labour? Like, this is so unfair. Like, I am clearly in labour. And I just like completely broke down. I was crying. I was having, at this moment during my contraction, I was having a panic attack and I literally just collapsed onto the floor and I was just crying so much. Mainly because they didn't believe that I was in labour. Like, Eric like left me on the floor to go find a midwife, which was good, and they came back and they were like, right, make your way back to the bed and I'll get someone down to come and see you and come and talk to you. Because I was saying, like, why does no one believe that I'm in labour? And I'm guessing like they just didn't want to deal with that, so they got their other midwife friend to like come and talk to me. I remember like this other midwife that I'd not seen yet, like, she came and talked to me and she was like, I can see that you are in labour, but the best thing to do is to go get a bath. I was in the room already with the bath and she was like, well, because we don't know your dilation, then you're just gonna have to use the ward bath. Like, that was actually really good information for me at that point, because I didn't know that there were baths on this ward. So she like told me where they were. I went to the bath and I was in there for like 4 hours, and then Eric was like, oh, we better go back to the bed because, like, I don't know, someone else might want this bath. When really what he was thinking, I know now, that he just wanted to go back and order food. And this is actually how I knew this. So we went back and I was laying in the bed, and I will insert the picture now at the state that I was in. Yeah, so I was just laying on the bed and all I could hear was Eric sat next to me, and he was talking about what food he wants. And he was saying, oh, should we get fish and chips? Or maybe we should get chicken from the takeout shop down the road. Oh my god. Oh my god. Do not talk to a woman that is in labour about greasy food. I felt so sick. Oh my god. Like, yeah, that was another thing. I had really bad sickness during my labour as well. Like, I felt sick all the time. He just kept repeating and repeating about like how he was really hungry and how he needs the energy and how he needs to go get some food and how he will only be 20 minutes, it's only down the road. Yeah, and I was just like, fine, like, just go then, just go get your food and then come back. And just thinking back now, I can't believe that he left me during that time. It still annoys me. I mean, I did get through it and I did have Edward, but at that point, that was the most like annoying thing of the whole labour process. I think he had gone for like 5 minutes or something, and I was like, oh my god, I really need to poo. Like, obviously I had been to the toilet before and had this panic attack, and I literally couldn't make it because it just seemed like so far away, and I was like, oh my god, like, I really need to go. Where is Eric? Like, he needs to come back now. Like, why has he just left me in this state because he needed his stupid greasy ass chicken? And oh my god, I was in so much pain and really need to go to the toilet. So I had to, like, I remember ringing the bell for the midwife to come, and I was like, I really need to go to the toilet, and my partner, like, he's gone and he's left me to go get some food, and I really need to go to the toilet. Like, at this point I was really panicking as well because I was trying to get all my words out before my next contraction started again. She asked how long he had been for, and I was like, oh, probably like 10-15 minutes at this point. I was just like, fine, I'll just wait for him. Oh my god, like, he came back with this greasy chicken, these greasy chips, and he was eating them, and all I could smell is, oh my god, it just made me want to be sick so much. Like, I already needed a poo and I needed to throw up when I smelt this horrible chicken. So I was like, right, you need to help me get to the toilet. He helped me down to the toilet. Like, it took so long to get there, and I remember I sat on the toilet and I was like, I can't poo. Maybe I didn't need to poo. It wasn't that, it was Edward's head. Because I was ready to push. I think, like, when you get to the point of when you need to push, like, it comes naturally and your body needs the push. Obviously, like, you can't push before because you're not, like, properly dilated or whatever, but yeah, I was at this point where, like, the baby was coming right this second. I told Eric to go get a midwife to, like, come and see me, get me onto the maternity unit where I was going to be giving birth. I'll go get, like, another midwife or nurse or whatever to come and, like, check to see your dilation because I can see that you're in labour now. Like, this woman came back and she just looked at me and she was like, we do not have time to check your dilation. And she shut off, got a wheelchair, brought it back, and she was like, get in this wheelchair, we are going to the birth unit. So I was in the chair. I will insert the clips now. The pushing part of labour is probably the easiest part of the whole time because it does happen quite quick. I know people can be pushing for hours, but I'd say I was pretty lucky. I think I was pushing for about half an hour, 40 minutes, but that time just, it went so quickly. Like, I remember I was looking at the clock the whole time. Like, at the point of pushing, I was given gas and air, but because I had not actually used it at all for pain relief, I was just taking like tiny little puffs of the gas and air. I was actually really scared in case I got like too high from this gas and air, because I didn't know what feeling it was going to give me, and I thought I was going to be too high to like push. But yeah, and then I had Edward, and he was really good. He actually had 2 knots in his umbilical cord, which is really rare. So Eric actually had to cut the umbilical cord straight away, because obviously he wasn't getting any of the nutrients from the umbilical cord. They told me it was really surprising that he had actually survived, because 1 knot is really rare and it can be quite dangerous, but to have 2 knots, that's really rare. And yeah, so I am so glad that he was like a healthy boy.
Oh, he just opened his eyes.
The thing that kind of did go wrong, like, I had lost a lot of blood. Like, I just had to be on iron tablets for about a month after having Edward. So that is my labour story. I thought that it was quite a bad experience. I know if I do have any more children, I will probably opt for a home birth. And I think with home births as well, I know in the UK you are offered 2 midwives. Throughout this whole story, like, there was no one midwife that was the same person. But yeah, so that was my experience, and I really hope you enjoyed my story time on it. And I know that a lot of women have had really bad experiences with their labour. I want to hear your stories too, so leave a comment below, and I really look forward to reading your birth stories and whether you had a good experience or a bad experience like I did. And here is the star of this story. So yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know what the outro to this is. So yeah, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.